one day, I went over to my friend's house in Indianapolis, and it was casual day like usual, doing drugs, chilling. Right when I got over there, immediately after we started doing drugs and hanging out, talking, putting something on the TV, I started to feel something so different. Like I felt the presence of something coming, and I felt this sense that I was about to go to prison, like some sort of prison, to be entrapped. And I remember like getting up. I think I told my friend, like, I don't know why I feel this way. Like, I know there's no police coming. I know no one's coming for me, like the cops, because they don't know like anything that we're doing or anything. But like, I feel this way. And I started walking around the room, just walking around, like feeling so weird. And then all of a sudden, all I could think about was Jesus. I didn't know Jesus at all. Like, I've heard of Jesus, I heard about him in church, but I never had like a reverence for Jesus. Like, I was doing a bunch of bad stuff and I didn't really care. But all of a sudden this conviction came to me. And it's so funny. It's so interesting because it's like, why was I convicted of this when I was just like robbing people? Like, not too long before this, but the first conviction that I had was the words I was using in my music, like how I was influencing people in my music. This conviction came over me. I remember literally telling my friend, like, yo, bro, I don't know why I feel like this. Like, I feel like we need to change like how we make music. Like, we need to change something. And then, but that feeling didn't stop of something coming to get me. And it was feeling closer and closer, more urgent. And eventually I went outside. I think he was freaking out too, because he's like, yo, what's going on with you, bro? And I went outside. I was out in the street, pretty much stuck there because I was freaking out. And all I could think about was Jesus in that moment. And I started to say, like, I love Jesus. I love Jesus. For some reason, I knew I needed him because I felt like I was going to die or something was going to happen. I started saying, I love Jesus. I love Jesus. But I didn't know Jesus. I didn't really love him. I was just saying that. So then eventually time was going by and I kept feeling this thing get closer and closer. I only know how to explain it as if it was like a movie. Like, it was just like, you could feel the urgency just shift deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, like it's about to be over. And I found myself in the middle of the street, I believe, or next to a bush or something, right next to the parking. And I felt this thing just come over me. And in that moment, it felt like time had stopped. Before that, it felt like I was like, look, I need to like find some way out. And that was only Jesus. But in that moment, it was like all hope left. Like there was no hope. Like it was over. Like I knew it was over. It was wraps. And I just stood there like dead face. And it felt like time stopped in that moment. And I knew that there's nothing for me. And I fell out. And I usually tell people, like, I don't really know what fully happened. All I know is what happened to me. I don't know if it was a vision. I don't know if I overdosed in that moment, if I did die. But I'm on the ground and all of a sudden I'm in a tunnel, and I'm in this tunnel full of thorns, and I still had some sort of flesh, and I was being pulled through this tunnel. And it was dark, but I wasn't focused on nothing around me. What I was focused on was me being pulled through this tunnel and having my flesh ripped over and over again. The worst pain ever felt in my entire life, ever. And in that moment, one of the biggest torments that I had was that I did not know if it was ever going to end. Immediately when I got there, I felt eternity. Like I knew in that moment that like I was going to be somewhere for eternity. I knew that. I had that feeling of eternity once I got there. And as I'm being pulled through this and going through this pain and this torment, I'm hearing a voice speak to me. It's almost as if there was something pulling me in with me and trying to convince to me that this is what God wanted for me, telling me that this is what Jesus wanted for me, lying to me, trying to pervert God, like all along, this is what he wanted, and trying to pervert him to the degree that this is what is for everyone once they die, that everyone will be going through this. And it was scary, but I didn't want to believe it. And like looking back, I think that's why I was pushing it so strong. I didn't want to believe it. I still wanted to have some sort of hope. And so I kept getting pushed through this tunnel. I didn't know when it was going to end, and there was no end to the tunnel. It was getting worse, but there was no end that I could see. But after what felt like days went by, I eventually finally got taken to somewhere else. And it was almost like just like it's an instant. I'm just in some other place. And this place was completely black, just completely dark. The only way I know how to explain it is like space, but like no stars or anything. And I'm just stuck there. And it was like almost as if like my body or my muscles or something was just clenched up, stuck, and I'm just shaking. And my teeth, I like the Bible says, like gnashing against each other. And I'm just stuck, just there shaking. And this immense pain and hopelessness was over me like crazy. And I remember that thing, which I believe is the devil or some demon or something, was there still convincing me, trying to convince me and pervert God that this is what he wanted for everyone. And there were some interesting things also that were going on that this thing was trying to convince me of. I think it was things that stemmed from things in my past. You know, I grew up, my dad being black, my mom white, but my dad always says, you know, you're black. Like you're black, people are going to treat you like you're black because you're mixed, you know, like you're going to be treated that way. And so I always just, you know, claim myself like I'm black, you know? And the devil, I believe, was telling me and trying to tell me, you know, that all black people also are going to go to hell, are going to go here and go through this torment, and like how God doesn't love them or something like that. I just remember that sense and that feeling and rejecting everything. It was just very interesting that like the devil would try to attack me in that area or try to convince me of that and pervert God in that way. So then I'm there and it feels like days are going by again. That hopelessness is just there. I'm just going through pain and not knowing if it's ever going to stop or if now I'm going to go somewhere else and be tormented more. I didn't know if I was dead. Like I didn't know if it was just over. Like I had no idea. And then that's when I get taken down. And you can feel like the weight, you know? And all of a sudden I'm over this city. I'm not in it. I'm over it. And there's something with me. I don't know if it was like still the devil or if it was God trying to show me something. I don't know what it was at that point. But this was a point where I had an interesting realization that, you know, I thought about a lot even after. I was looking at the city. It looked like people were going through torment on both sides, but there was a wall or a fence dividing them. It looked like they wanted to be together, but they couldn't. I don't know if that was part of like the torment that they were going through, but I had this huge feeling. Or I'll explain it after. I'll explain what else I saw. Right outside of the city, there was like these like creatures. These skinny, tall creatures look like demons. And they're around this fire or this blaze. And they were just speaking, uttering in these demonic tongues, is what I would call it now. Like this demonic language, chanting. And what was the craziest part was it sounded like some of the music that I had been listening to. And I heard people on the music that I used to listen to, like some of the names of the songs even was spoken in tongues, like weird stuff. And I've seen videos of people speak demonic tongues, and even someone say like, "Hey, before I go in there and I record, you know, something happens. Once I get on the mic, I black out, and something else takes over. And then when I get back out, I don't remember what I said, but I listen back, and it's really fire. But it's like really, it's just a demon taking over." So I feel like either God was showing me or I was just seeing it that, you know, a lot of the music is literally demonically influenced from hell. And that scared the mess out of me. And I'll explain what happened kind of after I got out of this experience, how that affected me. But then during that same time when I was looking over all of this, I had this feeling that there was a point that I was brought to that it felt like almost everyone is brought to. I don't know if everyone's brought to it or not, but like it felt like this point of like knowledge of something, things that I knew where I had to make a decision to be like, I want God or I want the devil. Like I want God or I want, you know, these demonic things, because now I seen it. Like I can't deny it. Like I have to say, okay, if this devil is real and all this spiritual stuff is happening, then God's real. And I felt that huge sense like I had reached this place where I had to make a decision. Like I had to. And I didn't want nothing to do with the devil. Like the whole time I was fully against it. I feel like that's why I was going through all that. I was fully against it. Like I was just so ignorant. Like I didn't know I was going to go to hell. Like I remember being on drugs. I don't know if it was after or before this, looking up at the moon, being like, wow, God is real. Like, and having this sense of peace, but like I'm robbing people. Like I didn't know I was going to go to hell if I didn't have Christ. It was just ignorance. But then in that moment, it was like I called out or cried out to God, like out of my spirit, like out of my inner being. I was immediately taken up, and I was in this huge room. It was dark, but it was like velvety. The only way I know how to explain it, like velvety. And I was on the ground, and I felt like a child in that moment. It's almost like I could see myself in purity or something. Like I felt like a child, and I felt all these waves of love just overflowing me, penetrating me, like the deepest love like I've ever felt, like overflowing me, like waves showering through me. And after I got saved, it reminded me of the verse that talks about how Apostle Paul is saying, like, I want you to know like the height, the width, the depth of the love of God, like how great it is. Like that's how I felt. And immediately I knew, like I just knew in me certain things. I knew I was with my Father. I knew he was God. And I heard a strong voice speak and say, I love you. And he said, you're going to be reborn. And I had no idea what he meant by that at all. Because I wasn't in the Word. I wasn't reading the Bible. I had no idea what he meant. I'm thinking like, what? So maybe I'm going to come back as a baby. Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm going to be reborn. He said, go and live perfect. It's like in the moment, like that wouldn't make sense. But later on, like, you know, the Bible says like, be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Not that we're going to be like absolutely perfect in our flesh, but we try to be like Jesus. And right after that, he shows me my dad. And my dad's, he's not dead, he's alive. But at that time, I had like bitterness and anger and hurt towards him because of just like natural things growing up, different things happening. He was a good dad though, but I had all this anger and hurt, and I began to cry. I was just like, I love my dad. I love my dad. I love my dad. And they just love just overflowed me for him. I got set free. And then God began to speak to me. And I knew in that moment that there were certain things I was not going to remember. Like I just knew that. But he was telling me, and he told me they had all these plans for my life and all these things. And I felt this purpose hit me. I was just so excited. I felt the Holy Spirit. I was just so excited. Like I was so happy. Like I felt like a kid who was just like, yo, I want to go do like what my dad wants me to do. Like I'm hyped. Like I'm so happy. That's how I felt. It was like so exciting. And it's funny because it's like there's so much persecution and stuff we go through in this life, but like there, like I just felt so excited that I was called, you know, and that he wanted me to do these things. And I remember just being excited so much that I was like I want to go back. Like I was excited to go back and do whatever he wanted me to do. And then I woke up. And it's funny because I've heard like a lot of testimonies where like they'll go to heaven or hell and then eventually be in heaven or something. And then God gives them a choice. Like I didn't have no choice. Like I wanted to be like doing whatever God wanted. And so this I didn't know until later. I don't know if it was a couple months later when I really thought back on it, but I woke up. The first time I woke up, I was in an ambulance. I didn't know, because in that moment, I didn't like feel my body. I just felt that same like peace as if I was still there in heaven. And immediately, like almost like a movie, just like I had an open vision where it was like almost like a scroll, like ripped open. Like I see it there right in front of me. And I see it flashing between different people singing in heaven. And the funny thing is that I was seeing even like African, like black people singing in heaven, the same thing that the devil was trying to like say some crazy stuff about. But like just the beauty of the singing was so overwhelming. It was so beautiful. And then it went away, and I hear this same voice say, sing, my son, just so loud, so powerfully. And I just began to sing like the loudest I ever sing before in my life. I don't even know what I said. I have no idea. But I began to sing out like so loud, so powerfully. And then I was just laying there. I was like, yo, God is real. Heaven is real. Heaven is real. I started saying heaven is real because I was so excited. I was like, heaven is real. And then I realized that there's two people next to me. Now, I'm assuming that it was like the ambulance people, unless it was some angels. But I don't know. I can't say that. I don't even remember like seeing them really. But they began to say like, yes, like heaven is real. Heaven is real. And at that time, I was like with somebody and I really wanted to see them. And I was, for whatever reason, I thought they were there. I was like, oh, if I'm in heaven, I thought I was in heaven at that moment. Like I didn't think I was on the earth because I felt, and I was like, if I'm in heaven, I could do whatever I want. And I tried to just leave, just leave, like fly out wherever I was at. And then I literally felt like myself come up. I saw myself come up out of my body and then just boom, pass out. Like, no, you're not going nowhere. And that's when I woke up in the hospital bed.